The massive chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wider than most cities. Representatives from 300 different worlds sat in floating pods arranged in perfect circles. Each species had its own environmental bubble, some filled with methane, others with water, and a few with gases that would kill most living things instantly. Ambassador Chen floated in her pod near the middle rings. She was one of only 3 humans in the entire chamber. Her dark eyes watched the holographic display in the center showing a dying world. The planet Valari burned. Cities that had stood for 10,000 years crumbled under orbital bombardment. The peaceful Valari, who had never even invented weapons, ran through streets as plasma fire rained from the sky. "The situation grows worse by the hour," said the council speaker, a crystalline being whose voice sounded like wind chimes. "The Korthak Empire has destroyed 17 Valari cities. Current death count exceeds 12 million. Chen's hands gripped the edges of her pod. Around her, hundreds of alien representatives made sounds of distress. Some clicked their mandibles. Others flashed colors of sadness. But nobody moved to actually do anything. "We must consider this carefully," wheezed the representative from Altair Prime, a slug-like creature in a tank of green liquid. "The Korthak Empire commands 800 warships. They have conquered 40 systems. Direct confrontation would be unwise." Unwise. Chen stood up in her pod, breaking protocol. "Millions are dying right now. Children are being vaporized while we sit here talking. Please maintain proper decorum, Ambassador Chen." The speaker chimed. "We understand Earth's aggressive nature, but civilized discourse requires patience." Chen wanted to laugh. Aggressive nature. That's what they called it when humans showed any emotion about injustice. She sat back down and watched another city disappear in nuclear fire on the display. The debate continued for 3 more hours. The Zephrani suggested economic sanctions that would take 50 years to impact the Korthak. The Melody proposed sending a strongly worded message of disapproval. The Quellian ambassador spent 20 minutes explaining why intervention would violate 17 different council bylaws. Chen's translator beeped. A private message from Ambassador Threx of Valari, whose pod floated 3 rings away. His blue-scaled face appeared on her personal screen. Tears of silver liquid ran down his cheeks. "My eldest daughter lived in the capital city," he whispered. "She was a teacher. She had 40 students, all under 10 years old. The Korthak destroyed their school 3 hours ago. No survivors." Chen's heart clenched. She looked around the chamber at all the representatives still debating, still talking, still doing absolutely nothing while a gentle species faced extinction. "I'm sorry," she messaged back. "This is wrong." "The council will debate for weeks," Threx replied. "By then, my people will exist only in memory." The main display updated. Another city gone. Death count now at 18 million. The Korthak ships moved to the next population center, charging their weapons. Chen could see small evacuation ships trying to flee, moving slowly because the Valari had never needed fast engines. The Korthak destroyed them one by one, taking their time, enjoying it. "The council recognizes the representative from Sigma Draconis," the speaker announced. A spider-like being with 12 legs clicked its way to the speaking platform. It began a lengthy presentation about historical precedents, citing conflicts from 800 years ago. Chen stopped listening. She pulled up her private communication device, hiding it from the other representatives. She typed a message to Earth's High Command, encrypting it with military codes. The message was simple. Valari civilization facing extinction. 18 million dead. Council paralyzed. Requesting immediate military response. Full authorization code Chen Alpha 77. Her finger hovered over the send button. Transmitting military intelligence without council approval. Violated 37 treaties. Earth could face sanctions, isolation, even expulsion from the council. Her career would end. She might face imprisonment. Another city vanished on the display. 22 million dead now. Chen pressed send. The response came faster than she expected. Admiral Rodriguez herself appeared on Chen's private screen within 4 minutes. The Admiral's scarred face looked grim. Behind her, Chen could see the bridge of a warship already bustling with activity. "Ambassador, confirm authorization," Rodriguez said. "Confirmed. 18 million civilians dead and counting. Korthak Empire conducting systematic genocide of Valari species. Council is debating while children burn." Rodriguez nodded once. "Understood. How many enemy vessels?" 800 at last count. Energy weapons, standard shielding. Typical Korthak configurations. Time to Volari space from our position. 72 hours at maximum burn. We'll be there in 70. Rodriguez out. The screen went dark. Chen's heart pounded. She had just unleashed something the galaxy hadn't seen in 50 years. The humans were coming to war. 20 minutes later, the council speaker's crystalline form suddenly flashed red, and color Chen had never seen it display before. We are receiving an emergency transmission from Earth's military command. The chamber fell silent. Every representative turned to stare at Chen. She kept her face neutral. The main display shifted to show Admiral Rodriguez in full military uniform. Behind her stood dozens of human officers, all moving with purpose. Galactic Council, Rodriguez began, her voice carrying the weight of mountains. Earth has received the Volari distress signal. The 7th Fleet is mobilizing. 200 vessels will reach Volari space in 70 standard hours. We respectfully inform the Council that we will engage all hostile forces threatening civilian populations. The chamber erupted. Representatives from 100 worlds started shouting, clicking, or flashing in panic. The speaker chimed so loudly that several pods automatically muted the sound. Earth has no authority, screeched the Altair representative. This is a violation of Council protocol. The humans must be stopped. You forget. Rodriguez continued as if she could hear them, though this was a recorded message. Earth signed the Council Charter with one amendment. The Warsaw Protocol, Section 7. In cases of ongoing genocide where the Council fails to act within standard diplomatic timeframes, Earth reserves the right to independent humanitarian military intervention. Chen remembered that amendment. The Council had fought it for 3 years before finally accepting it, believing humans would never actually invoke it. They had been wrong. Furthermore, Rodriguez added, any attempt to interfere with our humanitarian mission will be considered an act of aggression against Earth and its allies. The transmission ended. The chamber descended into chaos. Some representatives fled immediately, rushing to warn their governments. Others demanded Chen's immediate arrest. The Korthak representative, who had been laughing in his pod, suddenly stopped. His 4 eyes focused on Chen with something that might have been fear. You don't know what you've done, the Quellian ambassador said, his tentacles writhing in distress. The humans, they're Deathworlders. They evolved on a Class 12 death world. Gravity that crushes normal bones, predators that hunt in packs, diseases that kill in hours, weather that can destroy cities. They're not like us. They're not civilized. No, Chen agreed, standing again. We're not. We're the species that survived everything our planet threw at us. We're the ones who climbed to the top of our food chain by being more dangerous than any predator. And right now, we're the only ones willing to save the Volari. The display showed another city dying. But now, Chen felt something different. Hope. In 70 hours, the Korthak would learn what happened when humanity decided to care. The Council could debate all it wanted. The decision had been made. Earth's children were coming to war, and the galaxy would remember why humans were classified as Deathworlders, not because of where they came from, but because of what they were willing to do when innocents called for help. Chen sat back in her pod and watched the countdown timer she had started. 69 hours and 40 minutes until the 7th Fleet arrived. She wondered if the Korthak understood what was coming for them. She doubted it. Most species never truly understood humans until it was too late. The Volari would survive. The Korthak would learn, and the Council would never again ignore a call for help when humans were listening. Space twisted and tore at the edge of the Volari system. Reality bent in ways that made most species sick to observe. Then they came through. 200 human vessels emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their hulls scarred and pitted from countless battles. Commander Korthak's zeal watched from the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator. His 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the human fleet on his tactical display. Around him, his officers made sounds of amusement. These are the feared humans? His weapons officer laughed. Look at those ships. No elegant lines, no beauty. They look like someone welded metal boxes together and called them warships. Zeal had to agree. The human vessels were ugly. Where Korthak ships gleamed with smooth curves and polished armor, the human ships looked like brutalist nightmares. Square, angular, covered in what appeared to be random protrusions, weapon ports and armor plating that seemed excessive. Sir, initial scans complete, reported his tactical officer. Human vessels appear to use primitive chemical propulsion and I'm not sure these readings are correct. Explain. Their armor plating is reading at 3 meters thick. That can't be right. No species uses physical armor anymore. Energy shields are superior in every way. Zeal's mandibles clicked in amusement. 3 meters of metal? How do they even move? No wonder they look so crude. They're using technology we abandoned 500 years ago. The human fleet moved forward at what seemed like a crawl. Korthak ships could dance through space with grace. These human vessels lumbered like wounded beasts. Incoming transmission from the lead human ship, communications announced. The main screen flickered to life. A human female appeared, sitting in a command chair that looked like it was made for someone twice her size. Her uniform was simple gray, no decorations except for 5 stars on her collar. Her face carried scars that should have been repaired by any decent medical facility. "I am Admiral Maria Rodriguez of the United Earth ship Perseverance," she said. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "You are currently engaged in genocide against the Valari people. You have 1 hour to withdraw all forces from this system." Zeal stood from his command throne, his forearms spread wide. "I am Commander Zeal of the glorious Korthak Empire. You bring 200 primitive vessels against 800 of the finest warships in the galaxy. You threaten us? Leave now and we might allow your species to survive as servants." Rodriguez didn't react. Her expression never changed. 59 minutes, 30 seconds. The transmission cut off. The bridge erupted in laughter. Officers grabbed their stomachs, making sounds of mirth. The weapons officer actually fell out of his chair. "She gives us an ultimatum," Zeal roared with delight. 200 against 800. With primitive ships that look like cargo haulers. "Communications, send this to all ships. Let everyone enjoy this moment." But his science officer wasn't laughing. The pale blue Korthak stared at his screens with growing concern. "Commander, these readings, what is it?" "The human ships. I'm detecting massive radiation signatures. They're carrying nuclear weapons, hundreds of them per ship. And these other readings, they have mass drivers." "Mass drivers?" Zeal's amusement faded slightly. "You mean they throw rocks?" "At 0.3 light speed, sir. A 1-kilogram projectile at that velocity carries the energy of a small nuclear weapon. They have hundreds of these weapons per ship." The laughter on the bridge died. Zeal studied the tactical display more carefully. The human ships had spread into a strange formation, not the elegant battle lines the Korthak preferred. They looked scattered, random. "It doesn't matter," Zeal declared. "Our energy shields can handle primitive kinetic weapons. And nuclear weapons are area effect, useless against shielded targets in open space. Fire a warning shot. Let's see these Deathworlders run." The Dominator's forward batteries charged. Beautiful blue energy beams lanced across space, striking the lead human vessel directly. The beams that could punch through a meter of reinforced armor in seconds splashed across the human ship's hull. Nothing happened. The human ship didn't even adjust course. The energy that should have carved through metal simply dispersed across the crude armor plating, leaving only slight scorch marks. "Increase power," Zeal ordered. "All forward batteries." 20 beams struck the human vessel. The temperature readings on its hull increased by a few degrees. "Otherwise nothing, sir." The science officer's voice shook. "Their armor. It's not just thick. It's layered with ceramics, ablative compounds, and metals we don't recognize. It's specifically designed to disperse energy weapons." Zeal felt his first moment of unease. "Target their engines. Cripple them." More shots fired. The human ships kept advancing, ignoring the barrage that filled space with brilliant light. They moved slowly, steadily, inevitably. 30 minutes remaining. Rodriguez's voice echoed across all Korthak communication channels. She had hacked their entire fleet network in seconds. "Launch fighters," Zeal commanded. "Swarm them. Find weak points." 3,000 Korthak fighters launched, elegant craft that danced through space like metallic birds. They streaked toward the human fleet, ready to pick apart the lumbering vessels. Then the humans launched their own fighters. They were ugly things, basically engines with guns attached. No shields. Armor plating that seemed bolted on as an afterthought. They flew in straight lines, no grace, no elegance, but they were fast. Impossibly fast. The human pilots pulled maneuvers that made Zeal's officers gasp. 15 gravitational forces, 20. The kinds of turns that would liquefy most species. The humans treated them like gentle curves. A Korthak fighter lined up for a perfect shot. The human fighter didn't dodge. It flew straight at the Korthak craft and rammed it. Both ships exploded. Zeal expected that to be the end. Then his sensors showed the human pilot, still alive, floating in space in an armored suit, firing a handheld weapon at other fighters. "They're insane," someone whispered. More human fighters did the same thing. When outnumbered, they rammed. When their ships were damaged, they turned them into guided missiles. Pilots ejected and continued fighting with personal weapons. One human pilot, her fighter destroyed, actually landed on a Korthak fighter and started tearing panels off with her bare hands. 15 minutes, Rodriguez announced. Zeal watched his fighter squadrons disappear, 3,000 of his best pilots against 500 humans. The humans lost 300 fighters. His forces lost everything. "Commander," his tactical officer's voice cracked. "The human formation. It's not random. They've surrounded us. Every escape vector leads through overlapping fields of fire." Zeal studied the display. His 800 ships were indeed surrounded. How did 200 ships surround 800? But they had. The human vessels had positioned themselves at key points where their weapons could cover multiple angles. It was ugly, brutal, and absolutely effective. "All ships concentrate fire on their flagship," Zeal ordered. "Everything we have." 800 Korthak vessels turned their weapons on the Perseverance. Thousands of energy beams struck simultaneously. The space around the human flagship turned into a star. The energy output could have cracked a small moon. When the firing stopped, the Perseverance emerged from the cloud of dispersing energy. Its armor glowed red-hot in places. Several outer plates had melted away. But the ship kept moving forward. "Faster now." "Time's up," Rodriguez said. The human ships opened fire, space filled with metal death, projectiles moving at speeds that turned them into pure kinetic energy. Nuclear missiles that confused Korthak targeting systems by flying erratic patterns. Fighters that rammed larger ships, and the Perseverance itself accelerated to attack speed, heading straight for Zeal's flagship. "She's going to ram us," the navigation officer screamed. "Evasive maneuvers." But the Dominator was built for grace, not speed. The Perseverance was built for one thing: war. It struck the Korthak flagship at 1% light speed. The Perseverance tore through the Dominator like paper. 3 meters of human armor met half a meter of Korthak elegance. It wasn't a contest. The human ship emerged from the other side of the Korthak vessel. Still firing, still moving, still hunting. Zeal's last thought, as his bridge decompressed and he flew into the void, was that the humans hadn't brought warships, they had brought monsters. Sergeant Marcus Cole had been in worse situations. Not many, but a few. His powered armor clung to the hull of a Korthak battleship as he waited for his squad to get into position. The metal beneath his magnetic boots vibrated from weapons fire. All around him, space burned with the fury of humanity unleashed. "Delta Squad in position," crackled through his helmet comm. "Echo Squad ready," came another voice. Cole checked his heads-up display. 40 Marines scattered across the enemy ship's hull, each one a product of Earth's crushing gravity, trained in the hellish conditions of Luna's military academy. Each one ready to do what other species considered impossible. "Remember, boys and girls," Cole said, priming his hull cutter. "The Korthak think ships are for space combat. Let's teach them why humans invented boarding parties." Breach in 3, 2, 1. 40 hull cutters activated simultaneously. The plasma torches, designed to cut through asteroid rock in seconds, carved through the Korthak armor like butter. Cole dropped through the hole he had made, falling into artificial gravity and landing in a crouch. The corridor was beautiful. That was the first thing he noticed. Polished walls that seemed to glow, art hanging in alcoves, soft lighting designed for aesthetic pleasure. It looked like a museum, not a warship. The Korthak crew members who saw him drop from the ceiling froze. They were tall, 2.5 meters, with 4 arms and elegant insect-like features. They wore flowing robes over their uniforms. They looked at Cole like he was something out of a nightmare. He probably was. His armor was scarred and pitted, painted matte black covered in weapons. He stood only 1.8 meters, but his armor made him look like a walking tank. "Corridor secured," he reported, not even bothering to fire. The Korthak had already run. Moving to engineering, his squad moved through the ship like a plague. The Korthak had energy weapons that should have been superior to human ballistic weapons, but energy weapons needed time to charge, to aim, to calculate. Cole's automatic rifle just needed him to point and squeeze. The bullets might have been primitive, but when 40 of them hit a target in 2 seconds, the target stopped caring about primitive or advanced. A group of Korthak soldiers tried to make a stand at an intersection. They had good positions, overlapping fields of fire, textbook defensive setup. Cole respected that. Then he threw a grenade around the corner. The Korthak had never seen human grenades. They assumed it would be some kind of energy burst they could shield against. It wasn't. It was simple metal fragments propelled by chemical explosion. Their personal shields, designed for energy weapons, did nothing. The corridor painted itself purple with Korthak blood. "Sir, this is Private Kim. I found something." A voice crackled over comms. "Report. I'm in what looks like their computer core. But sir, they don't have any physical security. No locks, no guards. Just pretty lights and touch panels." Cole almost laughed. Of course they didn't. The Korthak fought ship to ship. The idea of someone being inside their vessel, physically accessing their computers, was unthinkable to them. "Download everything. Then introduce them to our friend." "Copy that. Uploading the virus now." The virus was something special, written by a teenager from Mumbai who got bored during history class. It was simple, elegant, and absolutely devastating. It made every Korthak ship receive false friend or foe signals. Every vessel would see every other vessel as an enemy. Meanwhile, in space, the battle had become something historians would call impossible. The Korthak had brought reinforcements. 500 more ships, fresh and ready. Admiral Rodriguez had laughed when they arrived. "Finally," she had said. "A real fight. Signal the reserves." The 2nd, 3rd, and 4th fleets dropped out of hyperspace. 600 more human vessels. But these weren't like the 7th Fleet. These were fresh ships, crews who hadn't fought in years, eager to prove themselves. The Korthak commander of the reinforcement fleet tried to surrender immediately. Rodriguez didn't accept. "You came here to kill civilians," she broadcast on all channels. "You came to destroy cities full of children. Surrender is no longer an option. You wanted to see humanity at war. We'll show you." Fighter pilot Lieutenant Sarah Chen, no relation to the ambassador, pulled her fighter through a 20G turn that should have killed her. Her vision grayed at the edges. Blood vessels in her eyes burst. She laughed through blood-stained teeth and fired everything she had at a Korthak cruiser's engines. "Sarah, you're redlining," her wingman warned. "Your body can't take much more." "Watch me," she growled. She rammed her fighter into the cruiser's engine port. At the last second, she ejected. Her fighter's nuclear core detonated inside the ship. The cruiser split in half. Sarah floated in space, her emergency suit keeping her alive, still firing her sidearm at escape pods. On the battleship Thunderchild, Captain Washington made a decision that would become legend. His ship was crippled, engines dead, weapons mostly gone. A perfect target for 3 Korthak destroyers closing in. "All hands, abandon ship," he ordered. His crew looked at him in confusion. He smiled. "I said abandon ship. I'm taking her in alone." They understood. The crew evacuated while Washington stayed at the helm. He waited until the Korthak ships were close, confident in their kill. Then he detonated every nuclear weapon in his arsenal simultaneously. The explosion took out all 3 destroyers and damaged 12 other ships. Washington's last transmission was him singing an old Earth War song. Back on the Korthak battleship, Cole's squad had reached engineering. The Korthak engineers weren't soldiers. They were artists, scientists, builders. They surrendered immediately, begging for mercy. "You're safe," Cole told them. "We don't kill prisoners, but I need you to watch something." He pulled up his helmet display and projected it onto the engineering bay's main screen. It showed the battle outside. Human ships ramming Korthak vessels, fighters using themselves as missiles, Marines in armored suits jumping between ships with nothing but magnetic boots and determination. "This is what we are," Cole explained to the terrified Korthak. "We evolved on a world where everything tried to kill us. We learned to kill it first. We spent thousands of years killing each other, getting better at it, perfecting it. Then we decided to stop. We chose peace. You made us choose war again." One of the Korthak engineers, braver than the rest, asked, "How do you live with such violence in your nature?" Cole removed his helmet, showing his scarred face. He had been fighting for 3 hours with a punctured lung, 2 broken ribs, and internal bleeding that would kill most species. He didn't even seem to notice. "We don't live with it," he said. "We are it. Every human is descended from thousands of generations of survivors. Every one of us carries the legacy of ancestors who faced death and said, 'Not today.' We try to be better. We try to be peaceful. But when someone threatens innocent people, when someone kills children, we remember what we are." He looked at the screen showing the battle. The Korthak fleet was being torn apart. Ships trying to flee found human vessels already waiting. Ships trying to fight found opponents who didn't understand the concept of surrender. We're Deathworlders, Cole continued. Not because of where we come from, but because we carry our world with us. The gravity that crushes your bones made our muscles. The diseases that would kill you in hours live in our blood as harmless passengers. The predators you fear are the ancestors of our pets. We are not like you. We are what the universe creates when it wants something that refuses to die. A massive explosion lit up the screen. Another Korthak capital ship gone. In its wreckage, human marines could be seen. Still fighting, still advancing, some missing limbs. Others venting atmosphere from their suits. None of them stopping. The Korthak engineer who had asked the question made a sound their translator couldn't interpret. Later, Cole would learn it was a prayer to their gods, begging forgiveness for waking the monsters. The battle continued. The Korthak fought with everything they had. They outnumbered the humans. They had better technology. They had every advantage except one: they weren't human. The Korthak Emperor himself watched the tactical display from his throne room on the homeworld. His 4 eyes refused to believe what they were seeing. In 18 hours, the humans had destroyed 60% of his glorious fleet. Ships that had conquered 40 systems were being torn apart by primitives who still used chemical propulsion. Send everything, he commanded his Grand Admiral. Every ship we have in reserve. The entire Imperial Guard. 1,000 of our finest vessels. These humans want war? We'll drown them in it. The Grand Admiral hesitated. Your Majesty, that would leave our core worlds defenseless. From whom? These humans are the only threat. Send them all. 1,000 Korthak ships began their journey to Valari space. The finest technology the Empire could produce. Energy weapons that could crack moons. Shields that could withstand supernovas. Crews trained from birth for combat. Back in the battle zone, Admiral Rodriguez received the intelligence from a spy drone. She read the report and actually smiled. Her bridge crew had never seen her smile before. It was terrifying. They're sending everything, she announced. 1,000 ships. She opened a channel to Earth. Admiral Rodriguez to High Command. Request immediate deployment of all reserve fleets. Authorization, Ragnarok Protocol. There was a pause. Then a voice came back. Ragnarok confirmed. Fleets 5 through 20 are mobilizing. Estimated arrival in 16 hours. Godspeed, Admiral. Rodriguez turned to her weapons officer. Lieutenant, prepare the asteroid cannon. Ma'am, that's still experimental. We don't know if it will work. Then let's find out. The asteroid cannon wasn't really a cannon. It was a modified mining ship that had been hauling a 10-kilometer-wide asteroid. The humans had spent the last 6 hours attaching engines to it. Hundreds of engines, all pointed in the same direction. Private Kim, the one who had uploaded the virus earlier, was now floating in space with nothing but a damaged suit and determination. Her fighter had been destroyed 4 hours ago. She should have been rescued by now, but she had found something more interesting. A damaged Korthak command ship, venting atmosphere, most of its crew dead or evacuated. She pulled herself along its hull using her hands. Her suit's thrusters were gone. Her oxygen was at 12%. Her left leg was broken in 3 places. She didn't care. The airlock was damaged but functional. She forced it open with a crowbar she had taken from her fighter's emergency kit. Inside, the ship's emergency lighting cast everything in a purple glow. Bodies floated in the zero gravity where the artificial systems had failed. Kim pulled herself through corridors looking for the bridge. She found it after 20 minutes. Her oxygen was at 8%. The bridge still had partial power. She accessed the communication system with her suit's universal adapter. Another gift from Earth's engineers who assumed humans would need to hack alien technology eventually. She found what she was looking for: the Korthak battle plans. Every strategy, every weakness, every fear. She transmitted everything to the human fleet. Then, with 4% oxygen remaining, she set the ship's engines to overload and pointed it at the nearest cluster of Korthak vessels. "This is Private Kim," she broadcast. "Tell my mom I love her." The ship exploded 3 minutes later, taking 6 Korthak destroyers with it. Sergeant Cole, meanwhile, had turned the captured battleship into his personal fortress. His Marines had welded the doors shut and turned engineering into a bunker. Korthak soldiers tried to retake it for 6 hours. Cole's squad of 40 Marines held against 300 Korthak soldiers. The Korthak couldn't understand it. Cole had taken injuries that would have killed any of them instantly. An energy beam had burned through his armor and into his chest. He had sealed it with emergency foam and kept fighting. His left arm hung useless at his side. He used it to prop up his rifle for better aim. "Sergeant, you need medical attention," one of his Marines said. Cole spat blood onto the deck. "I'll get it when we're done." "You've been saying that for 3 hours. You have internal bleeding, organ damage, and I'm pretty sure your spine is fractured." So? That single word summarized humanity better than any speech. So what if he was dying? The job wasn't done. The Volari weren't safe. The enemy wasn't beaten. Death could wait. The 1,000 Korthak reinforcements arrived exactly when expected. They emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, shields at maximum, weapons charged. They expected to find their 800 original ships and 500 reinforcements mopping up the human remnants. They found wreckage, debris fields that stretched for millions of kilometers. Korthak ships firing on each other thanks to Kim's virus. Human vessels that looked like they had been through hell but kept fighting anyway. And they found something else. "The asteroid, what is that?" the Korthak fleet commander demanded. His answer came when every engine on the asteroid fired at once. 10 kilometers of solid rock accelerated to 5% the speed of light in seconds. It smashed through the Korthak formation like a bowling ball through glass figurines. 30 ships vaporized instantly. 50 more were crippled by debris. Then the rest of the human fleets arrived. 15 more fleets. 3,000 human vessels. They didn't come in formation. They came like a swarm of angry hornets, each ship choosing its own target, its own approach. There was no elegance, no coordination that the Korthak could see. Just pure directed violence. The Korthak fleet commander tried to organize a defense. But how do you defend against an enemy that uses their own ships as weapons? How do you fight someone who treats fatal wounds as inconveniences? A human destroyer, the Indomitable, had lost all its weapons. So its captain did the only logical thing by human standards. He accelerated to maximum speed and rammed the Korthak flagship. Both ships exploded. The human escape pods immediately began firing at other Korthak ships with handheld weapons. The Korthak had never encountered this kind of warfare. They fought with rules, with honor, with the understanding that survival was the goal. The humans fought like survival was optional as long as the enemy died too. Fighter pilot Lieutenant Sarah Chen, who should have died hours ago, had been picked up by a medical ship. The doctors told her she had suffered enough G-force damage to liquefy most of her organs. She needed immediate surgery. She stole a fighter from the medical ship's bay and flew back into combat. Her damaged body could barely handle 5 Gs now, so she found a new strategy. She loaded her fighter with every explosive the medical ship had, mostly mining charges for asteroid clearing. Then she flew straight into the Korthak Emperor's personal dreadnought for the children of Volari, she whispered as she detonated. Everything. The dreadnought's shields held. Barely. But the explosion damaged their generators. For 30 seconds, the pride of the Korthak fleet was vulnerable. 30 seconds was 29 more than the humans needed. Every human ship in range fired everything they had. Mass drivers, nuclear missiles, even jury-rigged mining lasers. The dreadnought's armor, designed for energy weapons, crumbled under the assault of primitive kinetic weapons. Rodriguez watched from her command chair. They had lost 40% of their ships. Thousands of humans had died. But the Korthak were broken. Ships fled in every direction. Some captains surrendered. Others self-destructed rather than face human boarding parties. "Admiral," her communication officer reported, "we're receiving a broad-spectrum transmission from the Korthak homeworld." On the screen appeared the Korthak Emperor himself. His royal robes were disheveled. His 4 eyes showed something Rodriguez had never seen in a Korthak before. "Fear. We surrender," he said simply. "Unconditionally, please, no more. We'll leave Volari space. We'll pay reparations. We'll do anything, just stop." Rodriguez leaned back in her chair. Around her, the bridge crew waited for her response. The Admiral looked at the tactical display. 800,000 Volari children were dead because the Korthak thought they were weak. "Easy prey. Admiral Rodriguez to all human vessels," she said. "Cease fire. Accept surrenders. Any Korthak ship that powers weapons gets destroyed." She turned back to the Emperor. "Your surrender is accepted. But understand something. We didn't do this because we enjoy war. We did it because you killed children. Remember that. Remember that humanity chose peace and you made us choose war. Don't make us choose again." The transmission ended. The battle was over. In 21 hours, humanity had destroyed the largest fleet in galactic history. They had done it with inferior technology, fewer ships, and tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare. They had done it because they were human. The Grand Council chamber had never been so quiet. 300 species sat in their environmental pods, watching the holographic displays that showed the aftermath of humanity's intervention, debris fields that would take decades to clear. The mighty Korthak Empire reduced to begging for terms, and the humans sitting in their damaged ships, treating wounds that would kill any other species, calmly organizing relief efforts for Valari survivors. Ambassador Chen floated in her pod, watching her fellow representatives. Many couldn't even look at her. Others stared with expressions their species used for dangerous predators. The Altair representative had actually moved his pod further away. The crystalline speaker chimed softly, calling for order. The Korthak Empire has surrendered unconditionally. The Valari homeworld is safe. The intervention is complete. Nobody wanted to say what had really happened. The humans had destroyed over 1,000 warships in less than a day. They had done things that shouldn't be possible. They had shown the galaxy what Earth's children really were. The death toll, the speaker continued, his chime subdued, is significant. The Korthak lost approximately 400,000 military personnel. The humans lost 12,000. The math was simple and terrifying. Each human death had cost the Korthak 33 of their own. And from the reports, many of those humans had died because they chose to, ramming their ships into enemies, fighting while mortally wounded, refusing medical treatment until their missions were complete. The Valari representative, Ambassador Threx, stood in his pod. His scales, usually a bright blue, had dulled to almost gray from grief and stress. I wish to speak. The chamber fell even quieter, if that was possible. My people are alive because of Earth, Threx said. 800,000 children still breathe because humans answered our call. I am grateful. I am also terrified. He looked directly at Chen. Your species saved us, but watching them do it, it was like watching a force of nature, like watching a volcano eruption or a stellar collapse, something that doesn't care about the normal rules, something that just is. Chen stood to respond. Ambassador Threx, humanity made a choice long ago. We looked at what we were, what our nature pushed us toward, and we chose to be better. We chose peace. We built ships to explore, not conquer. We extended hands in friendship, not fists in anger. But we never forgot what we are capable of. When your children were dying, we remembered. And what happens? The Quellian ambassador asked, his tentacles writhing nervously. When you remember again? What happens when humanity decides the galaxy needs their intervention? Before Chen could answer, the main display activated. Admiral Rodriguez appeared, still in her command chair on the Perseverance. Her uniform was torn and blood-stained. Behind her, the bridge showed clear signs of battle damage. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. Medical teams worked on wounded crew members who refused to leave their posts. Galactic Council, Rodriguez began, her voice carrying the exhaustion of 21 hours of continuous combat. I am here to deliver Earth's official statement regarding the intervention. She stood, and the camera pulled back to show someone beside her. It was Sergeant Cole, still in his damaged armor, still bleeding from wounds that hadn't been properly treated. He shouldn't have been able to stand. He stood anyway. This is Sergeant Marcus Cole, Rodriguez said. He led the boarding action that captured 3 Korthak battleships. He's been fighting for 21 hours with injuries that would have killed him 16 hours ago. He has something to say. Cole stepped forward. His helmet was off, showing a face that had seen too much but refused to break. When he spoke, his voice was rough, damaged from screaming orders through a punctured lung. I have 2 daughters back on Earth, he said, 6 and 8 years old. They think I'm a cargo ship mechanic. They don't know I'm a soldier. I hope they never have to know. But when I heard about Valari children dying, I thought about my girls. Every human in this fleet thought about their children or their siblings or the children they might have someday. He paused, coughing blood into his hand. He wiped it on his armor and continued. We don't want to be warriors. We want to build things. We want to explore. We want to make friends and share stories and learn about the universe. But we come from a world that taught us a simple truth. Sometimes to protect what you love, you have to become something terrible. You have to become the monster that other monsters fear. He looked directly at the camera, and every representative felt like he was looking at them personally. We choose peace. Every day we choose peace. It's harder than war for us. War is easy. War is what our bodies were built for, what our minds excel at. Peace is hard. Peace requires us to fight our own nature every single day. But we do it. We've been doing it for 50 years since we joined this council. Rodriguez took over. The Korthak forgot that our peace is a choice. They thought it was weakness. They were wrong. To any species watching, any power that thinks humans are soft because we choose diplomacy over destruction, remember this. We destroyed the galaxy's largest fleet in 21 hours. We did it with outdated technology and fewer numbers. We did it while suffering casualties that would have broken any other force. And we did it because it was the right thing to do. She paused, letting that sink in. Earth proposes the following. Any species that engages in genocide, any power that targets civilians, any force that kills children will face human intervention. We don't need the Council's permission. We don't need approval. We will act, because that's what we choose to do with our nature. We choose to be the monsters that protect the innocent from other monsters. The transmission ended. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some species were terrified. Others were angry. But the Valari ambassador spoke loudest. Threx of Valari moves to formally recognize Earth's right to independent humanitarian intervention. My people live because they acted. How many other species might be saved because the humans are willing to be what we cannot? Several smaller species, those who had always feared conquest, seconded the motion. The vote was called. It passed barely, with many abstentions. Chen watched it all with mixed feelings. Humanity had shown its true face to the galaxy. Not the friendly explorers they had pretended to be for 50 years, but the apex predators who had clawed their way to the top of their food chain through pure will and violence. Later, in a private meeting, the speaker approached her. His crystalline form chimed with what she had learned was anxiety. Ambassador Chen, I must ask, how do your people live with such duality? How do you balance peace and war in your souls? Chen thought about it for a long moment. We tell ourselves stories. Stories about heroes who chose to be good when being evil would have been easier. Stories about monsters who became protectors. Stories about the importance of choice. Every human child grows up learning that they have tremendous power to hurt or help. We teach them to choose help. But we also teach them that sometimes to help the innocent you must hurt the guilty. And if you ever choose wrong, if humanity ever becomes the threat instead of the protector? Chen smiled sadly. Then we hope someone else will stop us. But honestly, I don't think anyone could. 3 weeks later, a small ceremony was held on the Valari homeworld. It wasn't broadcast to the galaxy. No official recordings were made. But Ambassador Threx invited several humans to attend. In a park that had been rebuilt after the bombardment, Valari children played. Their parents watched nervously as Sergeant Cole, finally healed but carrying new scars, sat on a bench. A small Valari child, maybe 5 years old in human terms, approached him cautiously. She held a drawing. It showed stick figures in black armor standing between smaller blue figures and red monsters. At the bottom in the Valari script were words that translated to, "The monsters who protect us from other monsters." Cole took the drawing with hands that had killed hundreds. He looked at it for a long time. Then he did something the Valari didn't expect. He cried. "Thank you," he told the child. "It's beautiful." The child hugged him. Her parents almost intervened, terrified of the human warrior. But they saw something in his face. Pain, sadness, hope. All the things that made him not just a monster, but a thinking, feeling being who had chosen to be monstrous for a moment to save innocence. That image, of a small Valari child hugging a human warrior while he cried, would never be officially recorded. But it would be remembered. It would be shared in whispers and stories. It would become the moment many species understood what humans really were. Not monsters. Not heroes. Just people who had evolved on a world that tried to kill them, and in surviving had learned to kill anything that threatened what they loved. People who looked at their own capacity for violence and chose every day to be peaceful instead. Until someone threatened the innocent. Then they chose to remind the universe why Earth was classified as a death world. The galaxy would never be the same. Some species began training their militaries in human tactics. Others began peace negotiations with enemies, not wanting to risk human intervention. The Korthak Empire disbanded, its member worlds too terrified to ever wage war again. And Earth? Earth's ships returned home. Its soldiers went back to their families. Sergeant Cole told his daughters he had helped fix some broken ships.